more unity within our industry to get a bill like this passed. But I understand that there's a lot of opposition to this bill, and it has a lot of people within the industry scratching their heads why, including Hiss and Highwood, who I had a meeting with. They said, why would anyone oppose this? It's a freebie. And but they are. So I can't explain that part of it.
As a practical matter, I doubt if jockeys and exercise riders could find a market for that type of insurance. And by the way we've done it historically, the tracks have a amount of leverage for pricing and negotiations and stuff like that that is lost totally if that goes to individual people. There's no way they're going to be able to purchase that. I don't get it. I don't understand why there's opposition. To me, it's the simplest way. You know, starter fees, look at the magnitude of that. How are you going to collect those monies? Are you going to not have a horse enter a race until the fees are paid? Are you going to hold papers of the horse until the fees paid? And then the horses, you can have the horse. I don't care. I'm not paying my starter fee. It's a disaster to do it some other way, or to try to do it some other way than the way we have historically done it. I'm amazed that maybe people don't fully understand the ramifications of that. It is really significant to the industry. So,
well, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioner Buffington, I agree with you. I've worked in several jurisdictions across this country, and the way it was set up here was by far the best model that I've ever seen, because it's not a burden on the horseman. We, like I said, in Delaware, we struggled every year through horsemen because the exercise rider and workman's comp, for that matter, was very, very expensive, and it kept people from coming to Delaware. This model, like I said, if I had 30 horses, it would be enticing to come here knowing that I wouldn't have to have that extra coverage for my exercise riders because it's already paid for. As I mentioned, I use the word gift. It is a gift. I mean, it's not that much of a sacrifice to pull it from the gaming money.
The starter fees, if that has to, if they go that route and have to implement that, how does that entice somebody to enter a horse or somebody to come to New Mexico? Every time I run a race, it costs $300 or $200 or whatever that number is. I mean, that's a disincentive to enter a horse, not an incentive to come to New Mexico.
Yeah, that is correct, Commissioner Buffington. We really got to think wisely on how we think here and what we're doing, because with Arizona's funding starting to diminish with the federal money that they received and the Arizona development money from the state of Arizona going away with the new governor, those portions are going to decline. Colorado's not in the healthiest of shape. Texas right now is pushing strong legislation with potential to pass for lottery machines, video lottery machines. We have some things going on around us that we need to pay attention to. We can't just be focused in our own little world here in New Mexico. We have an opportunity to take advantage of what's going on, and there's opportunity for us to get destroyed by competition of what's going on. Another thing is the Mdewakanton tribes did not settle with the horsemen in Minnesota. A lot of Arizona horses go to Canterbury Downs in the summertime. There's an opportunity to recruit these horses here, but we need to change. We need to do some changes here. We can't be so closed-minded as it appears we've been over the last handful of years. In my 7 years here, it's been the same old model every year. And I don't know if anyone is paying attention to pari-mutuel handle. It's starting to decline some now. So those are the things that we always keep an eye out for. What's the health of the industry? And right now, I don't see the industry as being the healthiest. Field sizes starting to decline, and I've lived this a couple times over already in other jurisdictions. I see the freight train coming. I don't know if anyone else does, but
one of the freight trains coming in, the tracks can view this as a labor dispute, and in state statute, there's a labor dispute. They can use force majeure to shut their track down and not have to run a meeting. So the ramifications of not getting this passed would create another thing like the pandemic. tracks shut down, not running, using it for excuse not to run, and it's a legitimate excuse. That is a labor dispute. And it says right there in the statute, they can do it. And everybody says, oh, they have to have separate casino. No, they don't. Now, they have to give that money away whether they won 1 day or 10 days or 17 days. Whatever that 20%, that money in those tournaments, they have to give it away.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioner Smith, that is one of the exceptions in the Gaming Control Act laws, that a work stoppage is cause for variance and approved variance. So if the jockeys refuse to ride, the tracks could, we will not be racing, but the tracks could still game if approved by the Gaming Control Board.
And the Jockey Guild is not going to approve a policy bought by a group of trainers that, buy the cheapest policy they can buy the cheapest this, cheapest that. We got to raise the limit from $500,000 per accident to at least $1 million per accident. We're not going to be able to, we won't have any jockeys. They don't have to ride here, and they don't work for the racetracks. They work for the owners and the trainers. And we're going to lose owners if we start the starter fee, and we're going to lose trainers. And we're going to lose thoroughbreds.
And I've heard it that other jurisdictions, the tracks pay for the jockey insurance and everything, but this is a whole different model than other jurisdictions, and we got to remember that this model is completely different. Like every state, they have different models. Everyone got it. The thing of the model we have gaming money. A lot of states don't have it. We have gaming money that we can fall back onto. A lot of these states where the track pays for the insurance, they don't have gaming.
The value money. They take money out of the person. California takes $250 every time you run out of your purse to pay for all that in California.
See, so there's different models. And this model is a really, really nice model because
we have the money.
We have the money. I don't gaming. So it works really well for us.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioners, as I mentioned earlier, working in different jurisdictions across America, when I saw the New Mexico model, I thought, wow, this is the best thing for the horsemen, seeing how it was putting a lot of horsemen out of business and requiring workman's comp in these other jurisdictions. So I think this is the best model I've seen.
Well, we got to keep it going and get that Bill P36 passed. Go from there.
That would be beneficial to the industry, Mr. Vice Chair. And if I can, you want me to continue out a couple more points?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Right, that's pretty interesting.
Just also happy to inform the commissioners that the agencies have rolled out our new breathalyzer testing program, in which we're breathalyzing licensees on race days at Sunland Park currently. So far, we've done 34 breathalyzer tests. Good fortune, everyone's been good, and we have not had to take anyone's license away yet, based on being out there riding under the influence of any alcohol. So investigator Garcia has taken the lead on that. She's our go-to girl on that. She's gone through the training. We've got two very nice breathalyzer units to utilize throughout the year. So that's one of our new performance measures as well with the legislatures to assure that we increase the safety on every given race day at New Mexico racetracks. As far as the Sunland meet goes, it's been mediocre, I guess. I don't mean any disrespect over there to the Sunland Park guys, but I think off-track handles down almost 20%, on tracks up a little bit, between 4 and 5%, I believe, but I'll probably get the more accurate numbers from Dustin. But I believe it's lack of product. I continue to watch handle from other jurisdictions on Tuesdays and Sundays. Tuesdays especially, there's not a lot of action across America. And it's still life and death for us to break $1 million at Sunland Park when other podunk tracks are doing 1.5, 1.6 million. So it's a little frustrating to continue to watch, but I think it comes down to the product that we're providing the gamblers across America. They're not as interested in our product as they are in other racetrack products. You know,
Would that be the decline of thoroughbreds or what?
I think it's field size and the quality of thoroughbreds that we have here. No disrespect to the New Mexico breds, but they're not really on the radar. The people that race here aren't real well known on the other side of the Mississippi, where bulk of the horse players are in the Philadelphia, New York, Boston metro areas, where a lot of action comes out of the Mid-Atlantic, and plus the timing as well. But you know, it's disappointing to see the continued decline in the product here.
Let's do that. That's the bad side, but the good side is casinos are doing really, really well, and they keep the purses up. So we're running a very poor product at a lot of money.
That is absolutely correct.
I mean, and we want to protect that. We want to protect that 20%. And the way we protect that, try to feed the gamers a better product. How we're going to do that, that's basically not us, that's up to the Breeders' Association.
They certainly makes sense.
There's some things we can probably do later down the road, force a hand, but right now, we need them to step up, and it doesn't, from what I'm hearing, it doesn't look like they're going to step up and do anything about increasing the numbers.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I stand for any more questions.
No. Okay. We'll move on to read, the report reading.
Mary up there?
Good morning,
Morning, Mary. Morning.
Mary Barber, New Mexico Horse Breeders. I was going to introduce you to our registrar, but I guess she got busy with a customer. So I'll go over my reports from Sunland Park. In their first 23 days, they have run 93 New Mexico bred races. Of those, 48 were for thoroughbred overnights, 30 quarter horse overnights, 6 quarter horse trials, 5 thoroughbred stakes, and 4 quarter horse stakes. And our contributions came to $884,000. This is $104,000 more than in 2022. Sunland Park is averaging 4.05 restricted New Mexico bred races per day, 53 thoroughbreds, 40 quarter horses, and they are plus 24 for the 3 a day. On their average field size for New Mexico bred restricted overnight races, the thoroughbreds are averaging 7.54. The quarter horses are averaging 9.52 for a combined average field size of 8.38. For breeds running in open overnight races in the first 15 days that we have paid out, 135 New Mexico breds ran in open overnight races, and of those 135, 42 came in first, second, or third, and that is an average of 32%. There were 15 thoroughbreds and 27 quarter horses, and the contribution to those purses for those horses came to $52,033. And that's my report.
Mary, the increased money that you've been able to put in purses is due that the casinos are doing so well. Is that correct?
Most of it, yes, that's correct.
So that every time the casinos do well, the purses go up for you guys that you put in these races.
Yes, that's right.
Another reason we want to protect our 20%. And the way we do that is improving our product and not giving them a reason to look at the state legislature or whoever to look at. We don't want them to give them any reason to look at our 20%. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay,
And let's move on to let's order executive session. Let's see here. I'll enter the enter executive session.
You can what?
Hey, I move that the commission enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation, licensing matters, and for deliberations in connection with proceedings as identified under item number 7 of the meeting agenda in accordance with NMSA 1978, sections 10-15-1, H1, 3, and 7 of the Open Meetings Act.
And you second? So moved. Motion second, roll call
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
vote. We're now in the session.
Recording.
Somebody wants to play ball, sorry. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Hold on. Don't know if you can.
So I need to get the, can you give me the screen share?
Yes. Give me a second, Scott.
Okay.
Um, you should be able to, Scott.
Okay. Can you, let me see. There we go. Well, it's still saying that. It's okay. I'll just kind of do it through another way. It's okay. So just to kind of want to talk about what is an audit. So, you know,
Try it now, Scott.
okay. Oh, so you have to stop sharing, I guess. See. There we go. Okay, so kind of just talk about in general. Slideshow.
Is up there now.
There we go. So kind of what an audit is. So we don't look, as part of our audit, we don't look at every single thing that the Racing Commission transacts. So what we do is we do risk assessment and we say, okay, here's the major transactions that are occurring within the organizations. And for the governments, most governments, it's going to be payroll and disbursements. And so we spend time looking at those. And so one of the things we do is we test all the employees. Now, we don't test every single payroll for every employee, but we do test one employee and we select one of the payrolls haphazardly during that time period. And we also do a sample of large transactions. Mostly it's your testing with I think it's the University of California. So we'll look at those, make sure that there's approvals. Same thing with the audit, or I mean the payroll side. And then we also do testing of the racing receipts, and from the information that you receive from the tracks, we make sure that they match the information that was put into the accounting. So when we do all of this, we do have some areas where we may have a material misstatement, and we didn't select that transaction because it didn't come in onto our sample. So there may be areas that we didn't get a chance to look at this year, and so therefore we may not have found another issue. So just wanted to kind of explain, those are some of the limitations we perform on an audit. If we tested everything, we would be there a tremendous amount of time, and I don't think Amber and Izzy would appreciate us being there that much. So I just kind of go over the opinions. So the opinion is, both opinions are clean opinions, which means that there isn't anything that we noted as part of our audit that would modify the opinion, meaning that the financial statements are a mess, big transactions are missing, or we've got a lot of problems with internal controls. We did have one finding, and it was in relation to the state auditor providing us a referral on it was a citizen who had requested in relation to the IPRA. And so one of those things, based on the work that we did find some issues with the IPRA, and we can talk a little bit more about that. I won't go into a lot of detail with it unless the commissioners would like me to, but it's in the financial statements as a finding, and it was just, there's a tremendous amount. You have a small agency, and there was a tremendous amount of IPRA requests in that time frame, and so with the limited number of employees, it made it difficult to meet the requirements under the IPRA requests to get that information out. And some of them were fairly significant in the request, meaning that they were for several years going back on certain individuals. So it's a process that they have struggled with. And so they're working on it. At the time, the financial statements that I think last time was, there were about 50 or 60 left that were still outstanding. So, but they're working on them. In general, the financial statements, I'm not going to go through them too much, just some highlights. So we did have some big changes this year in the receivables, which was something that Amber picked up. And she had noticed that we were overpaying a couple of counties and cities on some taxes. So I think those may be close to being paid up at this point. And then there was also a new standard that requires us to record leases, both as an asset, even though they're operating, and also as a liability. It's something that our accounting standing, government accounting standard boards require. So it's something that, and again, Amber did all the work. So we reviewed it and made sure that, there wasn't anything else out there. We talked a little bit about the inspection for the public record, IPRA, the finding. We made some recommendations, and I think you'll see the response from management, which I think is a fair response. And so the fact that you only had one finding is good. You actually corrected the other finding from the prior year. So again, it shows the testament to the management and working hard about making sure that findings are taken care of and resolved. And so, they spend a lot of time dealing with us. So we appreciate all the work that they've done over the past with Izzy, and also Amber especially, because we bug her a lot when we do the audits. And so there's a lot of information she has to provide to us. So with that, I'm open for any questions that the commission or anybody has.
Yes, this Commissioner Sanchez, one thing I'm confused at, how can we get deemed on something that is impossible to do? I don't understand.
Well, so the requirements under you're talking about the IPRA. So the requirements under the IPRA say that you only have so many days to respond or to ask for a continuance or an extension. And then after so many other days, so the first one is 3 days. You have 3 days in which to comply. Or you can request an extension and notify the individual of the extension. And then you've got till the 15 days. And then at that point, you can ask for another extension, and it becomes unclear about when that last extension happens. But some of the courts have ruled against agencies that have not been able to provide these requests in a timely manner. And so that's the question, is we didn't really have most of it was being computed and responded to, meaning put in a contract log and saying, okay, we received it on this day, this is the date we actually sent out an extension. And then, the 15th day we sent out another extension. So it wasn't consistently kept track. And one of the reasons, the main reason, was that you had two different people addressing these IPRA requests. And so there was some problems with keeping track of those time requirements. So that's kind of why we ended up with a finding. I mean, I haven't, in all the years that I've been doing a financial auditing, I've never written up a IPRA request finding, but
I can see why.
Is there any other questions? From my understanding, it is from one individual, yes.
Over 500 over the years been filed, that was one individual?
Yes, to my understanding, yes.
That's nuts. Thank you.
Mr. Buckington, any questions? No, sir. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me turn off my, oh, good. Thank you for stopping the share.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
And if you have any questions, you can please contact me afterwards as well.
Okay, moving on, let's go to Summer Park. Good morning. Good morning.
Chairman Sanchez, members of the commission, Dustin Dix, Director Racing at Summer Park. I was going to go through our ratifications here, and then I'll give a little update on our meet. I'll try to frame it up as the glass half full instead of Mr. Trejo's half empty.
Excuse me. Would you want us to these ratifications one at a time? With the best, one at a time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Be specific one.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez. Our first ratification of approval to amend our post time on February 12th, 2023, and to amend the amount of time in between races. We shortened our post time to 25 minutes a race to get done a little earlier, so everyone can enjoy the shoot win and Super Bowl.
Need a motion to approve this? Second, Buffington. Got a motion and second. On favor? Okay. Roll call vote? Yes.
I can do a roll call vote.
Why don't we do a roll call vote that way? I don't like to look like getting it there.
Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Okay, move on to.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez. Southern Parks requesting ratification of approval to amend our 2022-2023 official Guadalupe Shabira, our outrider's mom, passed away. He had to leave during the races on Tuesday and this Friday, and Michelle Salazar filled in as outrider.
Motion to approve.
So moved, Commissioner Smith.
Second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez. Southern Parks requesting approval for ratification of approval to amend our 2022-23 state schedule. And this is to allow for my basics in our stakes races for thoroughbreds, with the exception of Sunland Oaks and Sunland Derby on March 6th. LASIX was permitted in 2-year-old racing and stakes races pursuant to HISA Rule 4212E, but the medication portion of HISA did not go into effect, so we have the latitude to revert back to the racing commission rules. So I made a request. Agency Director Trejo approved it, so I'm asking for a ratification, and this will begin with February 19th with Enchantress, I believe, stakes on Sunday. That moving forward, LASIK will be allowed in our thoroughbred race, with the exception of the Southern Oaks and Southern Derby.
We have some happy people. Motion to approve the registration. Second, Buffington. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yeah.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Okay,
Thank you. Just a quick update, we're a little past the halfway point of our race season. On Tuesday, I believe, was the halfway point of our 55-day meet. Our on track, we're encouraged, that's up 4.62%. Our off track, as Agency Director Trejo mentioned, is down 19.24%. And I get asked by my bosses all the time what I attribute that to, and I think Mr. Trejo kind of hit on some of those points. Really, the quarter horse racing off track, by how we were doing our racing, we were always offering 3 or 4 thoroughbred races a day. So I think the quarter horse days have been down off track, and then even making it worse, the thoroughbred days have been off quite a bit. I think it's the product that we're putting out there. We saw this coming into the season. The amount of horses that we have are controlled by 2 trainers, so it makes for an unattractive product when trainers are winning 3 or 4 races a day, where we have 5 and 6 horse fields with 2 or 3 trainers. Through the 27 days, our starters per race were 8.28, and last year they were 8.28 overall, but on the thoroughbred side, last year we were at 7.80, and this year we're under 7 at 6.97. Shorter field size, less and less quality racing. I think it's kind of evaporated the issue with our off-track numbers. So something I talked about at the summit that I really think we need to look at running straight meets, because with us only running 2 days of each breed, it's tough to attract new people. But we have some issues with this, but so we all, yes. I'm encouraged though. We're getting into the part of our meet where we're gearing up for the Sunland Derby, our last round of prep races we had for on Sunday, and been getting a lot of interest from California for big-time trainers nominating to our My Network Derby. So we're hoping we can build off of that and hit it out of the park on March 26th on Sunland Derby Day. So got some good things to look forward to in the second half of the meet. And I stand for any questions. Right. I said, oh, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Downs, Rick.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Rick Ball from Ritos Downs. Ritos Downs would like to request approval of our 2023 condition book as submitted. with the condition book, I'd like to inform the commission that the first book will be just over $1.2 million. So that'll average in excess of $130,000 per day, which will allow us flexibility going into our second book to enhance purses to around 225 to 208,000.
That's the second book. What's your theory behind that, Rick?
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
What's your theory about putting the first book at $130,000 a day?
Trials. It's trials, Commissioner. We run so many trials during the first book that we'll have additional funding to spend in the second book.
The second book you said was 250?
Should be 225 to 250 is what we'll be looking at. And we monitor our purses daily. Go and look at each one of the overnights as they fill. And if we have, of course, with your first book, you're making assessments as you move along on a daily basis.
Need a motion to do this? We'll move Commissioner Smith.
Second, Buffington. Motion second?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, will read us down request approval for 2023 post times and wagering format as submitted. Commissioners, as you'll see, we break our post times and wagering format down from 1 to 11 to 12 to 15 races based on the trials. So this will eliminate additional work for the commission as well as ourselves to have these in as trial races fill. And so we've covered the gamut here.
Thank you for that. Any motion?
We'll move Commissioner Smith.
Second, Buffington. Yeah, got a motion second.
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith. John Buffington.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, read us down to request approval of our condition book officials as submitted.
Any questions? No. Any motion?
We'll move Commissioner Smith.
Second, Buffington. Got a motion second.
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 4, request approval of our amended 2023 stake schedule. Commissioners, I went over the New Mexico bred portion with Executive Director of the Breeders Association, Mary Barber. They concurred on the races that we requested approval for, which will be the Jess Berner stake and the Rita Danley distaff. So request approval as submitted, please.
Any questions? Motion?
We'll move Commissioner Smith.
Second, Buffington. Okay, we've got a motion second.
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yeah.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, Chairman, at this time, read us down to request approval of our 2024 nomination blanks. We have went over the nomination blanks with Executive Director Mary Barber of the Breeders Association. We found some typos. I believe Mr. Mike Logan also had some input on that. We have discussed the noms with your Executive Director, Mr. Trejo, as well as Denise. So I would hope to say that these blanks have been heavily vetted, and at this time we request approval. And if you'd like, I can go through them one at a time.
We have them broken out, Chairman, as like the same, like the All-American Derby and the All-American Futurity is one, and then so on and so forth.
What about the on?
That's the very last one, letter J.
Yeah. So, okay, I see Derby and, okay. Let's go through them. Rick, A, this starts with A.
Okay, this time we're requesting approval of the All-American Quarter Horse Derby and Quarter Horse Futurity for 2024.
Question? Motion and second. Move, Mr. Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Okay, Rick.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, item B, the 2024 Mountaintop New Mexico Bred Quarter Horse Derby and Quarter Horse Futurity nomination blank.
Questions? The motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington? Nope.
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, read those down request for item C, the 2024 Rainbow Quarter Horse Derby and Quarter Horse Futurity.
Any questions? Motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Move on to G.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, requesting approval of the 2024 Rio Grande Senior Futurity.
Questions? Motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Move on.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, item E, 2024 Rio Grande Senorita Futurity nomination blank.
Questions? Motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. One to F.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, item F, 2024 Rielso Quarter Horse Derby and Quarter Horse Futurity nomination blanks.
Motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. G.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, the 2024 Rielso Maiden Stakes nomination blank.
Motion? So move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. H.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, the 2024 Zia Derby and Quarter Horse Futurity nomination blank.
Any questions? Any motion? Move, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Item I, the 2024 Mountaintop New Mexico Bred Thoroughbred Futurity nomination blank.
Question? Any motion? Approved. So moved, Commissioner Smith. Second, Buffington?
David Hussey Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Move on to G.
And last but not least, Mr. Chairman, the 2025 All-American Triple Crown non-blank.
I got a question on that one, Rick. Are those amounts, January, March, and June, the same amount as 24?
Commissioner, I can't hardly hear you.
The amounts of the first three Triple Crown payments, are those amounts the same as they were in 2024?
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Chairman. We've had numerous requests to have and add an additional supplemental payment in January. And that has been put on the blank as well so that people can get in. You know, they're finding out what their babies are actually made of, and they're wanting to get in on the races then as well. So thank you.
No, late nomination?
I'm sorry,
When's the supplemental?
January.
January?
Yeah, it'll be an $8,000 supplement if I'm correct.
Okay.
And Commissioner Smith will be glad to take any of your supplements next year for the triple track.
I need, motion to approve. So moved, Mr. Smith. Second, Buffington.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Thank
Anything
you,
else?
commissioners. Sorry we couldn't make it. The roads were a little treacherous around here. It's been interesting there. Just a little briefing. The construction is moving along great. And even though we were moving dirt yesterday during the snowstorm, so we're moving right along.
How much snow do y'all have?
It depends on what part of the area you were in. Here at the track, we had around 4 inches, but at my house, we had about 8 inches. And it was wet, heavy snow. We had ice first and then snow on top of it. So it made it, and I've been around here for 19 years. I've never seen so many wrecks as I did yesterday on Gavilan Canyon. Either that or people don't know how to drive anymore. I don't know which it is. 8 degrees here this morning.
Yeah, not big old hold on to be cold in there. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we want Mr. Cardenas.
I'm just here looking at the daytime and get my license to be able to drive.
What license is that?
Yeah, license.
Your yellow license?
And I'll just very happy to give you the chance to approve. So,
Did you approve all, did you do all the requirements? Pay your fines, everything, and all that is done?
yes, sir.
You met, and you didn't leave nothing undone, huh?
No, sir.
So, any questions? Any questions from? No one? No. Okay, what do you say? We want to vote them, Mr. Cardenas gets,
I would make the motion to approve.
that in second, we got a motion and second. Vote,
David Hossie Sanchez,
yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Congratulations. Once you, get all this done, you'll get your license, and you go for the starter and all this stuff, and see you get your, thank you, congratulations.
Certainly.
You bet, too. Move on to E, Johnny Luna. What, Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa was gonna come up first. I believe that's our.
Lisa,
Unless you want them up there together.
no. Lisa, I hear there's an incident or something happened at Seven Park.
Well, I guess I've been around for so long that when things are different, I notice. And we had an incident where horses were not getting to the test barn. That they were going back to the barn.
Well, they weren't going to. Oh,
So
so what did we do with those races where horses didn't go?
the winner went,
The winner.
but selected another horse. Sometimes those didn't go.
Who selects it?
In the past, they've always had security
Who's they?
at the track.
Okay.
So the track will provide security from the winner circle to down the lane, to the end of the lane. And then the security person from the test barn can watch the horses from the time that the security drops them off at the end of the line.
Okay.
And make sure that they come to the test barn. And you don't have anyone causes a problem to make sure that the horse is actually alive.
I can see that.
And then it's basically the chain of custody. So your chain of custody of having the horses being observed from the time they leave the winner circle or the racetrack and get to the test barn. When they go back to their barn, the chain of custody is going to be broken, so you can't have them come back.
Okay, did all the winners make it? Were they escorted, the winners?
All the members did.
They were escorted.
They were escorted, but they were tagged and
They were tagged.
knows, but they're pretty much knows that they need to.
So when they want another horse tested, that will help you escorted, not the winners. What you're saying?
No, they all need to be this.
But the winners weren't.
So normally what would happen is that the horses would circle
Okay.
on the track until the winner is ready, and then they would go as a group down the
Oh,
lane
with-
the security. So, and that's how it's been for many years. I mean, I can remember when they used to have this elderly lady on a Palomino, or not a Palomino, an Appaloosa horse that would go back and forth. And when she left, then they did the security people talking.
Okay. We won't break the chain of custody. So what happened? What did yeah.
So, I asked, Mr. Luna about it, and,
Mr. Luna's
this is the
What?
chief of security.
chief of security at Summit? Okay.
And, I asked him about it, and he said that he did not ever know, he's never hired anybody to do that. And he kind of explained to him, that it was a thing of custody issue. And he explained to me that they had cameras, and I'm like, well, I can't tell the person from the that one and then mediate and where they're supposed to be going. He just said that, he's been here for 6 years and that they haven't done it. And true, they had them last year.
Was this open though? So,
It was probably, the next weekend.
okay, so, look at that.
But that's a good question.
So first weekend, there were no issues.
Never tagged.
They were, I don't know if they weren't tagged, all I can tell you is that they deviated from not going to the test farm. So, and we have trials, so, and, sometimes we're testing 4 or 5 horses.
So what do we have going on here then? After talking to Mr. Luna?
So then I talked to Izzy. And I explained to him, what was going on. And that some of the horses weren't making it to the test line, and that it was a chain of custody issue. And I think that it's going to solve.
Well, I'd like to hear that from Mr. Loomis.
Yeah.
How they resolve this mistake.
Anything else?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman Sanchez, Commissioners, there was some dialogue between the agency and Sunland Park. I called the director of racing and told him this is a big concern to us. And we got a conversation with their attorney, Mr. Fred Heinrich, and Mr. Luna and myself, and Mr. Dix involved there, and then Mrs. Johnson. We had a conversation. We stressed that the chain of custody begins when the horse is tagged and selected by the stewards, not when the sample is extracted, which is what some Parks representatives were thinking. And they asked if the camera was adequate, and we had told them that probably not, because as Ms. Johnson very well explained, the camera does not have a voice to tell a groom that's heading in the wrong direction versus going to the test barn to tell them, hey, you need to get back on track and go to the test barn. So the camera is a good auxiliary unit to use, but it's not the best practice. The best practice is to have an escort with these horses from the unsaddling area to the test barn. And that's done across America, bar none.
So the first weekend were these horses tagged and they didn't make it or not?
Mr. Vice Chair, I think there was some radio communication problems. I'm told by our stewards that the security officer down below was on a different channel when the stewards were trying to tell them which other horses other than the winner to take to the test barn. And so I was under the impression that maybe 2 horses, and this is just what I've been told, 2 horses did not make it to the test barn.
But there's a reason the stores ask for taxes, right?
It's purely a steward's discretion, Mr. Vice Chair, that the rules say that the winner goes to the test barn and or other horses selected by the stewards. And so if the most obvious one is a favorite finishing out of the money or up the track, the stewards could send them. Any horse that's fractious or just doesn't perform very well, we would send to the test barn. The stewards are very good at selecting those horses.
So do you think that's been resolved, or?
We have seen some documentation, Mr. Vice Chair, from Sanchez, some procedures created by Mr. Donnie Luna and Sunland Park Management. He presented them to us shortly after we had the conversation between Mr. Fred Heinrich, Mr. Dix, and Mr. Luna, and they fit the situation to a T on best practices. It was actually commend Mr. Luna for doing a very good job on it. It was to the letter of what we expect.
So probably, anything else?
And since then, I assume things are working the way you anticipate they should work.
I had a family emergency last weekend, so I wasn't in. So I have to defer.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioner, we do have verification from our steward that Sunland Park has put a escort in place. Was a
Vice Chairman Sanchez, members of the commission, Dr. Dix, representative. Dr. Dix, I'm just here to we put cameras in place of the pet farm escort, I believe in 2014 or 13. It was around when former GM came in by the name of Mr. Bach. I don't know if he's still on there. We used to have Marita on horseback that was a pet farm escort. Once we had cameras in place, this really hasn't been an issue for 10 years. I'll kind of let Johnny jump in. He did do some protocols and some documentation. I think we got it all sewn up right now. I just want to introduce Johnny as well. He's our director of security. He's been at Sunland Park for over 20 years. He was on the casino side and then came over to the racing side about 6 or 7 years ago. And very vital member of our team. And just wanted to introduce Mr. Luna to you. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Luna. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Buckington. I don't know if it's allowed, but if I may approach to hand you. These are the documents that the executive director checked for this. Speaking of. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I thank you all for allowing me to come up here and have this moment to have this conversation with you. If you'll allow me, just really give you a quick background. I started there at Sunland Park in 2003. I was promoted to security in 2009. At that point, we had a security manager already in place. So the management team at that point wanted me to come over to the gaming side of security, revamp that department, and get us back to where we needed to be. The manager that was there already at the time was solely responsible for racing side. I had no clue about anything racing, what responsibilities were in there, none of that. In 2013, when we had a change in GM, that's when I was allowed to take on a bigger role on the racing side of the house. I was responsible for hiring, for post scheduling, for firing, disciplinary actions, and I started to get my feet wet a little bit more involved in the racing side of the house, understanding winner's circle,
stable gate, so on and so forth. It was at that time, after I had a conversation with this incident, I had a conversation with Dustin, and it was at that time that Dustin had just mentioned that they went away from a physical escort. We used to have somebody on horseback that would escort the horses down the lane to the test barn. 2013-14, we went away from that. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea that test barn escort even existed. So when I started getting my feet wet around that time frame, keep in mind, I had no clue that that was even a thing. 2017, co-manager retired. So I took over 100% of racing and gaming responsibilities for the security department. And no time did I have a test barn escort. This was not a security responsibility. This was not a security post at any time. Even prior to that going away and it becoming a camera thing, that was the director of racing entirely. Now that we have the camera in place up until this point, I understand how Dustin didn't give a second thought because since 2013-14, we never had a physical escort. It was just that camera that was there and that was it. I did hiring, I did all the termination, discipline, and never had a physical escort. So going back to conversation and question now, Investigator Johnson approached me and asked me about the test barn escort. I had no clue what she was talking about. I had to say to her that, you know, she can't expect me to get something going so quickly a month into the racing season with no policies and procedures in place. At that point, she said, yes, you did. I said, we've never had one. She said, yes, you did. And she wouldn't let, I'll go off. She wouldn't let go of that. It was, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I never had an opportunity to have this conversation with her at that point. Talking about the first weekend that Investigator Johnson brought up. So the first weekend issue that we had, I understand Executive Director Trejo got the reasoning from the stewards about the security officer being on the wrong channel. What really took place was because the stewards do a really great job, and I do want to commend the stewards that we have in place. By far the best set of stewards we've had in quite some time. But what the stewards do is they'll do a radio check at every post. So we ensure that we are on the same page. What happened that day is the stewards were running into inquiries, objections, so on and so forth. So that does lag the situation and them calling to the winner's circle which horse needs to be tagged. Us as a property understand and know that the winner has to go automatically. So that's why the winner never missed that test barn escort or that test barn visit, I should say, because that horse was always automatically tagged.
Then he had escort.
No. I apologize. I misspoke. It wasn't an escort. It was that visit to the test barn. So that one horse or whatever horse was the winner horse automatically would go. So what happens is when the stewards call what needs to be tagged, the horses that just got done with the race don't hang around for us to say, hey, you were called to go, you were called to go, so on and so forth. The saddles come off and they're gone. If we don't have the information to tag the horse, we don't know who's going, except for that winner. So that's why that winner was always tagged and always sent when we didn't get that information. There was a time that we did miss a horse because of the late notice. The horse was already way down the track. I called steward Connie Estes and I told her that at that point we were chasing them down to the barn and taking them over to the test barn. She told me chain of custody was already broke at that point. Let's not worry about it. Let's try to stay on the same page as much as possible. It's been better since then. It's been way better since then. We have not missed a horse. We ensure that we try to tag every single horse that is called. Now that we have this escort in place, that is happening on a daily race basis. We haven't had that issue anymore.
So you have an escort in
Vice Chairman, yes, we do.
Because that was my understanding that last year you had someone escort.
Vice Chairman, Commissioners, we have not had a physical escort since the 2013-2014 races.
We're very different here, so I don't want to get an argument. So I don't want to argue here.
But it's remedied now, right?
Yeah, as long as it's taken care of and we have an escort going there and all this stuff, that's what we need. I mean,
when the officials from the racing commission ask for something, we need to get that. I mean, there's a reason for all this, because there's a reason why the stewards ask a horse to be tagged. I mean, it's something they said that's their job. So when that doesn't happen, it messes us up. So the thing is that let's try to cooperate better with people from the commission, and I think it'll work out better. And I'm glad I kind of read through all this stuff and speed read through it, and if all this is taking place, I think we're in pretty good shape. And let's try to get this thing done right. Because there's a reason behind it. We want this, it's legal. But once you break a chain of custody, that's it. There's, especially if a winner, you break the chain of custody with the winner of custody, we're in trouble.
The attorney can break it across.
Don't kill us.
Kill us every time we go to court.
Vice Chair, Commissioners, if you allow me, I want to set the record straight. This was not myself or the property not wanting to participate or not wanting to follow an ask from the commission. So I need to get that straight. Okay? When I was asked about a test barn escort, I had no clue what that entailed. Okay. I have bosses to answer to as well. There's liabilities that fall on not only myself, my staff, or the property, and I cannot really just react to an ask without knowing what it entails. There's none of this guiding us as to what the test for an expert should do, should look for, should have, should require. And in the case, as I mentioned, I can't just ask a seasonal employee to just escort the horses down and make sure that this is happening, because as you all know, we've been in business a long time. By the time it gets to the third person, it's changed. So what I would have liked was for that conversation in question, for have been given the opportunity to have this discussion so that we could have gotten to a resolution. That didn't happen. I don't bring like proper app. I have to operate how I operate. And it's not just for me. It's not just for my staff. It's not just for the property, but it's also for the investigators involved that may have to go to litigation, and also for Smith to investigate that. I cannot see myself being in such a position that I just wash my hands of any responsibility and say that's the commission's or the investigator's responsibility to deal with now litigation. I don't operate that way. So I need the commission to understand that this was not in no way a Johnny Luna not wanting to work with the commission. This was not in no way Southern Park Racetrack and Casino not wanting to work with the commission. This was a need, needing a better understanding of what was being asked of me. After the phone call that we had with Executive Director Deco, Investigator Johnson, Dustin, our counsel, Fred Heinrich, and myself, we had a phone call the next day on Monday. It was better explained at that point what was expected, what was needed off of this post. That Friday, this was generated along with the second page that is the log that is signed off by the officers involved in the escort. That Saturday, it was implemented. And we have done that since that day, and we will continue to do that going forward.
We appreciate that. That's good. We could look at doing this with other racetracks too. That way, I like the log. That log is pretty neat because that way you can see what horses went or whatever, and there's
You got a good system. Like
that will work really good because on would they be more lines in case there's 3 horses? Or 40 years?
Vice Chairman or Commissioner, Underneath the section that says horses escorted,
Yeah.
you'll just go along with the one.
Or you should put the numbers.
Yes. And then what we do at the end of the day is we'll take that log, we will attach it to the program for that day. And we put it in a 3-ring binder and we will hold that entire season in case we need to go back and look at anything. That is all kept together. That's why on this log, we just require the numbers. We can always go back to the race and look at which horse and what. So that'll work.
If I may, Mr. Vice Chair, that log has already come into action with the agency as I had to look up something the other day. I called Mr. Brooks and Mr. Luna, and they had their log and they were able to answer my question immediately. So it was very useful.
So something good came out of this whole thing, didn't it? That's good. That's what we want. So we want to progress. We want to get better. We have to get better at everything we do because if we're there and we think everything's right. There's always room for improvement. And it seems like this little incident, the basement, which we didn't know were needed, but now we know.
Well, my observation is this program now, and I think the day of this within 4 minutes.
And if I may take the opportunity to apologize to Investigator Johnson for any misunderstanding that we may have had. It wasn't something that way. I think we're just both professionals wanting a certain way things to be done, and we just weren't able to communicate properly that day. And I do apologize to Investigator Johnson for that. And I can guarantee you that going forward, I hope that we are able to communicate better and to avoid issues like this going forward. That's the last thing that any of us in this industry have to deal with is miscommunication and disagreements. There's just so much more for us to do with the horse racing industry, and this is not one of them.
Well, I appreciate that. The thing is, we have to look at our staff and we have to be behind our staff. When a staff thinks there's something wrong, we have to back them up on these certain things. That's why you're up here. To let you know that, when there's something like this happens, we're notified and we want to get to the bottom of it. Because our staff members that we have very important. They're out there. They represent us there, and we want to make sure that we are backing them up, whatever they're doing, and everything. Hopefully, we do everything right. If it's not right, it's not right. We make sure. I appreciate you coming up and go there. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very good. Very good. Just good. Working good. Anything else? Good. Good. Well, awesome.
Recording stopped.
You.